So lightworkers already know this age-old saying that when you heal, you will be able to call in the clients, and that when you have embodiment, that is when you will have the painful clients, all these things that kind of get spread online. You probably see a lot of the specific payment pieces in the coaching space. But the thing is, there's truth to this, but there is a nuance that gets missed. And this is what I'm seeing keep lightworkers in healing traps. And healing traps are just going to keep you looping and not actually serving the people that you're meant to, which is exactly what you're here to build your business for. So let's get you out of this trap. So if you're someone who is, evolving like a phoenix all the time, yet you're finding yourself almost feeling these holes in your business where you're like, okay, I'm doing all this stuff, I'm taking the actions, but yet I'm in this loop. And, I know that I need to become this person, and that is part of this soul business journey. And then you find yourself continuing to find new things to heal, you're almost seeking it. You're seeking the healing that is going to take you to your next level in business. And this is the healing trap. Anything that tells you have to be worthier, anything that tells you that you're not good enough, and anything that feels as though it's fear-based. And so I get this because I've been here before, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my business in just 1 second. But if this is you, I'm hosting an entire free class on this on November 18th. So if you're watching this before November 18th, 2025, you're going to want to go into the link and join the class live, because there's going to be so many tactical details on this. It's going to be about an hour and a half class, where this is going to be about a 10-minute video. So that being said, go into the link below and click and register for that. But that being said, I am someone who started my business doing tarot readings. And I knew that my evolution was key into building the business I was feeling called to share. And so that being said, I knew right away, starting my business, that I was meant to build something that was of big impact. And so I found myself really, really doing the work and really dedicating myself to this vision. But that being said, no matter how much work I did, I was making about $1,000 a month, and I was changing my prices. And I was also starting to try to work in coaching, doing somatic embodiment. And no matter what I did, it felt like I was being rejected everywhere I went. And I also felt as though I was in these holes. All of a sudden, I would get to this point where I'm like, oh, it must just be one more thing I have to do. I must be right there. And I kept finding myself pushing it farther and farther away. It wasn't until I started speaking to my soulmate clients, which are light workers, that this all changed. And this is exactly what I am going to be bringing in for you today. So if you're finding yourself, you're making money, but that the income you're supposed to be making is explosive, you're sharing your gifts to change the world. And that means that you're meant to be sharing it with a lot of people. So why does selling feel a little bit challenging? Or why does it feel as though you're being pushed somewhere else? Almost this feeling that you're not exactly where you're supposed to be, even though a part of you knows at the same time you're exactly where you're supposed to be, because you're sharing your gifts. And so that being said, when I started speaking to light workers, my business exploded into 20 to 40K months being my normal. And so this was after, again, over a year and a half in my business. And a lot changed really fast when I sunk into this. So first, let's talk about the healing traps, because this is actually a really common topic online right now, and it's almost an unspoken thing. There's a lot of this new age to Jesus movement online, and a lot of this has to do with healing traps that people found themselves in, and finding this to actually be of dark energy, because it is true. Healing traps are anywhere that you feel like you have to heal, and focusing and obsessing on the healing in order to move to your next level, that is a healing trap. Because that being said, if anything that is fear-based, anything that is, oh, you have to, like, you must just have something else you have to do to get here, it's taking you out of the present. And again, there's truth to this, and there's reasons that people fall in healing traps on the soul business journey, because it usually means that there's something out of alignment in who they are speaking to. And so this is what I'm going to teach you today, which is how to heal in a way that unlocks soulmate clients, that unlocks soul contracts, and actually brings people into your world. It's literally a portal. So instead of just portaling to portal and find all these things that could be wrong with you in order to heal, it's actually portaling in a way that brings in universal energy and brings in soulmate clients as you just exist and move throughout the day and do your non-negotiables and do your thing, right? All right. So that being said, these healing traps, what's happening in the New Age to Jesus movement is people are finding that they've been in loops of worthiness, that they must have to be a better, there's something wrong with them that they must have to heal in order to get to where they're going. And so this is the notion of the loop, because evolution and growth is very important. Healing to it is very important. And it is a part of being a light worker in business. Your evolution is what calls in soulmate clients, but when it's wrapped in worth or, obsessively having to find something to fix, that is the healing trap. And so that being said, I see so many light workers in this all the time. And I found myself in this before I started speaking to light workers. And actually it was right as I was starting to shift it, I noticed that I found myself almost coming to a halt because I was digging so hard into my body, my embodiment, and my healing. And so that was when I realized, wait a minute, this is actually slowing me down. I need to catch when I'm finding myself thinking from this lens. And this was a huge shift that once I started shifting to soulmate clients, I started to get a very clear trajectory of what I was meant to be moving through and being evolutionizing through. That's not a word. Evolving through next. So instead of just willy-nilly trying to heal and figure out what was going on, all of a sudden, I was getting clear directives on where to move. And then on the other side of that, I was starting to hit all of my income goals, all of my business goals of serving the people that I'm meant to serve. So for instance, this was about a year and a half into my business, I, again, had been really moving, really working. And that being said, I was making around $1,000. I started to get wind of this clear direction that I was starting to get with soulmate clients. I was interacting with my soulmate audience in the Akashic, in meditation. And then what happened was I would get a clear directive of move this way, create this thing, do this thing, become this version of you. And so when all of those portals would be kind of moved through, like magic and like clockwork, I would have clients fill the spots. So I sold out my group program. Technically, it wasn't the first time I launched it, but it was the first time I launched it as is. The other times it did not sell out. And so suddenly I launched it as it was supposed to be for the people it was meant to be for, because I was tapped into who I was meant to be serving in terms of my soul contracts. And then my group program sold out. And then the month after that, I ended up having a $20,000 month. And then the month after that, I ended up having another $20,000 month. And then I ended up having actually nearly a $40,000 month the next month. And from there, I've mostly hit around 5-figure months, 20K months, but anything on the lower end, it's been around 10K. And so this is as long as I'm really clear on the portals I'm moving through. So it's not that growth and healing isn't a part of it anymore. It's what's going to happen is that you are going to get a clear direction on how to heal and grow, on how to evolve, on who to become, on what to create to fill in the soulmate clients that you're meant to be serving. Again, this is soul contract based, and we're going to talk about soul contracts in just a second. So that being said, this is what takes you out of the healing trap. It's the clear direction and the clear slingshot to where you're going. So you have soul contracts. Think about it. You have soul contracts with friends, family, lovers. These are soul contracts in this lifetime that God, creator, universe, source has set you up to live on this lifetime and for you to live your goddamn best life. So if you're feeling called into a business of any sorts, these are soul contracts. You likely have had soul contracts in the corporate jobs you've had and other things as well. There's probably people you had soul contracts with. But that being said, you have soul contracts with clients that you're meant to serve. So you activating into your soul business timeline, you are activating others. And there's these soul contracts that you come to this lifetime seeking to fulfill. And so that is why you are so called into your business, because you have a slew of soul contracts that you are meant to be fulfilling, and not just meant to be. These are here for you to live your best life in all the ways, for you to live out your dreams of serving the planet, to being a human that moves impact on the planet. Your soul came here and had this agreement to make a huge change on the planet in the best way. And through the fulfillment of these soul contracts, you also get to live a life of fulfillment of your dreams. You get to live a life where you are building wealth and generating wealth for your spiritual gifts. You came here to live a life where you're fully activated in your personal power. Again, sharing your spiritual gifts. This is something that your soul is desiring, it's craving, and it's loving. and it's exactly what you came here for. So the goal is to focus on these soul contracts. I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean by that and how to do that. But when you start to fixate your growth and your focus on the soul contracts, again, everything starts to get streamlined. So instead of trying to figure out how you need to heal next, you're getting told exactly what you need to do next. You're getting told exactly where you need to go next. So instead of trying to, throw spaghetti at the wall, or it's almost like navigating this, a hall with the lights off, you're actually getting illuminated. It's like, hey, go to this place next. It's like going through a maze that's giving you the directions, right? This is the magic of having your psychic gifts. It's being able to allow it to guide you. So that being said, what I do with clients and what helps clients to really navigate this, and again, this was what I did on my journey as well, was in meditation, I am very clear on, first off, my soul blueprint, which we're not talking about in this video much. But that being said, your soul blueprint is exactly what you're meant to create, what your life's meant to look like. And when you're clear on that, that gives you a trajectory. And this is a part of the metamorphosis method. It's step one. It's your trajectory and where you're going. But then when you mix in the soulmate clients, this is exactly how you bring it all to life, because through your mission and your purpose, you get to bring your highest vision of your life to life. The one where you're the spiritual baddie, sharing your gifts with the world, having the best time, living your best life in your full self. And so that being said, when you bring in the soulmate audience, and so when I say audience versus soulmate client, it's essentially your audience is going to be kind of this grander vision of who you're serving, how you're serving them, and what transformation you're bringing them through. But that being said, when you access this soulmate client audience in the Akashic and you understand how to start speaking to them, again, what happens, you can start asking them for directions. You can start asking source for directions to them. And again, you start getting these portals. So I'm going to tell you a really specific example with a masterclass that I served this summer. And so I kept seeing myself having a video that blew up in comments. I knew that in general, I was moving into an era of my business where I was getting more comments, more traction, more visibility. I knew that was a lot of the initiations I've been going through the past months. So what happened was, I started getting a lot of these specific portals. I took a trip that felt really edgy for me because I was moving through a season of change in my business. So instead of shrinking, I felt called to go somewhere and expand myself rather than shrink. But then not only that, I actually also felt called to have a conversation with someone that we had a disconnect a few years ago, and I felt called to reach out to them, and I knew it was going to be something really major. And this is a really big thing in my life. And so when I reached out to them, I knew that something was going to shift. But 2 days after I reached out to them, my video, the first video that I posted about this masterclass called The Game, it had 40 comments on it. The first video. That video was not much different than most of the videos I post. Was it a good video? Yeah, it was definitely good. But a lot of my videos are good. I'm not gonna lie. I like most of my videos. So that being said, that video blew the fuck up. 40 comments. I had over 20 signups from that one video, and I've had a lot of people who've been at my page since because of that. So it brought in just 40 commenters. It had over 1,000 views. And again, it's also brought a lot of people onto my page. And so this wasn't because I found the perfect hook and all this stuff. Yes, I learned those things and I know how the energy of the online space works. But it was because my evolution was pointed in the right direction. And so do you see the difference here? The difference of I must heal all these things and I'm kind of just, oh my God, well, there's this thing with my mom and my dad and, this thing, maybe I need to say this, and almost this kind of intense energy around growth. Instead, I was pointed exactly to where I needed to go, exactly what I needed to do. And all of these things and these actions have really helped me to move into a new season of my life that is, again, moving exactly towards the vision I'm here to create, the one that feels good in my soul, the one, for instance, moving into this house that is a much more aligned, this is my first house that I've ever lived in versus an apartment. I have someone I'm dating in my life that is super soul aligned and someone that I'm seeing things around me being my life partner. And so that being said, this is what happens when you start to grow with soulmate clients instead of growing into the abyss. This is what turns you into a, first off, healer to leader, but from making money and trying to make things work into leveraging the energetics of the universe to bring income and clients to you. So that being said, if you got a lot of hits out of this, you are going to want to jump into the masterclass because I'm going to give you so many tangibles on how you're going to implement this into your work and make a huge change in your income and impact. And so there are already 70 people on the invite, 70 people, a lot of these people from the Metamorphosis community space, but people are signing up as well individually. So that being said, you're going to want to join below. And if you're watching this past November 18th, 2025, you're going to be able to get the replay in the link below, just so you know, little secret. So you got some tangibles today on kind of how this works, but in the class, we're going to be doing activations. We're going to be doing meditations, and I'm going to be giving you guys tangibles to leave the masterclass with. This is eventually going to be a training in a lot of my communities. So that's my paid communities, by the way. So this is going to be a free class, but it's eventually going to be a paid training. So that being said, if you got something out of this, I want you to comment below. Let me know what hit for you, and I can't wait to see you at the class.